All right, guys. So with BlizzCon roughly 60 days away, we are starting to see an incredible amount of leaks surfacing. Some true, some fake. We don't really know. But today, something surfaced that I think deserves some attention. And for some reason, when I read through this is one that we haven't seen before. Some things from the previous leaks, yes, but there was almost like this sense of certainty as I was reading through this leak, and we're going to read through this together today. I haven't posted about every leak. I really have only posted about the ones that I think could potentially be true, but I think it's really important for you guys to understand that nobody knows whether any of these leaks are true or fake. It's all just speculation. It could be completely fake. I don't know. Nobody else knows unless you are physically working at Blizzard. So realistically, go into this, take everything I say here with a grain of salt. It could not be true at all, but there could be some truth to it. And like I said, I only really talk about the leaks that I read through, and then I actually put them through AI, and I put them through some testing to see if any of it was created with AI, what sounds fishy about it, this, that, the other thing. And this one ranked really low on my scoring, so meaning that it could potentially be true. But again, take everything with a grain of salt. We're going to jump over to my main screen and read through this because there's some really interesting stuff here. All right, so obviously this one comes from MMO Champion. Again, 2025 preview build. So I'm going to read through this from the point of view of the forum poster here. Hello, everyone. I obviously cannot convince you of anything I'm about to post here. I wrote and rewrote this several times in an attempt to make it as clear and not rambly and not identifiable as possible. But that's just how I write things, so it did turn out a bit long regardless. So the first question he asked is, why post now, you might ask? Well, I usually wouldn't do this, but I felt since Blizzard is playing it so close to their chest right now, and this build I was able to check out was fairly widely circulated, and it was so long ago, that leaking the info I have will do little harm, and the community will be quite excited to hear about it at this time in particular, which, again, a lot of people are starving for classic WoW at this point. Everyone is bored with what we have. We want something new, so he's right. A lot of people do just... That's why we read these leaks and we speculate about them and all this. It's just because people are excited for something new, right? I am an active WoW player in both Classic and Retail, and this information is coming from a build that I had access to for a period of time as part of my position in a certain team in Microsoft. This is a burner account, and I'm using a VPN to post this. I think you will find this information was largely correct once the trailer rolls out at BlizzCon in September, but probably fairly outdated since it was last year that I had a chance to check it out. Anyways, enough disclaimers, let's go. So, diving right in, 2 new races. Unknown race for the Alliance. It was a grayed out button. Blood Elves reused from TBC for the Horde. 3 new classes, the Scout, and 2 unnamed classes, but they had description blurbs. Names were empty string IDs, example placeholders. So the Scout, I actually played this one, he said. It was leather, melee, and short range class that dashes in and out of melee range. It played like a rogue that also leaned on kiting, and it had a number of debuffs that you can consume for extra damage or other effects. Also uses energy like rogues, and ranged weapons are an important part of the kit. Uses bows but not guns, was available for all races on both sides. It had a unique feature of something similar to Smoke Bomb, where they drop a trap that creates an area which debuffs enemies inside, and it gives them a different debuff if they leave the area. It had 3 specs, all DPS. One had a bunch of energy sustain for switching between melee and ranged attacks. One had lots of debuff-related bonuses and some stealth talents, and the last one was not available in that build. It was very dynamic to play, constantly running into the mobs, immobilize, run out, shoot, small dashes, and slow on a quick cooldown, stacking debuffs, which you consume with a sort of a finisher move. No combo points like Rogue, though. Had limited stealth gameplay, like a timed stealth. And then the other 2 classes, it says this was an unnamed class, a plate user that uses shields. I read it as a spellbreaker or spell shield type of class, a tank/DPS that uses arcane to tank and deal damage. And then the other unnamed class was a male user, pretty much the Tinkerer is how I read it, with a support role mentioned, and I assumed it was a healer spec. So, interesting. Talking about these 3 classes, now do these 3 classes, we only really got a lot of information about the Scout. This person is saying they were able to play it. It sounds like something that would fit in a Classic Plus for sure. And the other two classes, kind of like a Spellbreaker class, definitely fits. And the Tinker is, you know, a beloved, you know, Classic Plus class that everyone has wanted for a really long time. So it makes, you know, quite a bit, you know, a bit of sense there. As for new zones, I saw a number of new highlightable zones on the map. Not all of them were named though. Gilneas was selectable. Left of Burning Steps, a zone called Eastwind Dunes. I remember specifically it being a 46 to 58 zone and was told apparently inspired by the Warcraft 3 cinematic where Medivh flies over Eastern Kingdoms. 2 elongated smaller zones right above Stormwind, also Stormwind Harbor District, was added. One going left into the sea, and the other seemed connected to Dun Moreau maybe. No names, no level ranges were visible on Mouseover. In Kalimdor, there's a new mass added in the northernmost end above Moonglade and Winterspring called Gloom Peaks. I don't recall the specific level range. Hyjal was not selectable. Stone Talon I could swear was bigger and jutting more into the sea by the silhouette. Isle of Dread also was 3 times its original size. A new unnamed island was selectable off the southern coast of Tanaris, also unnamed, about the size of Ungoro Crater, or a bit smaller. Additionally, Kel'Thuzad, Silvermoon seemed to be there on the map. I am absolutely sure several other zones were adjusted size-wise on the map as well. Durotar, Blasted Land, Swamp of Sorrows, Feralus, Lochmadan at least were shaped a little bit differently. The map in general was adjusted a lot, but I could only see selectable zones without them being revealed as you would at the start of a game without add-ons. Okay, that makes sense. So basically he's saying that when he did this playtest, he was kind of looking at the map. Now, if you guys remember, you've probably been playing with Leatrix or Leatrix, however you say it, maps, the add-on, for a really long time, where it just opens up the entire game. The second you make a character, you could see every single spot on the map is open. Whereas if you're playing the game with no add-ons for the first time ever, if you open the map, there's like Fog of War covering the entire map. You have to physically walk through zones to discover all of the areas. So that's basically what he's saying. He was going based off of like the shaping, the size of the maps, and that makes sense. It sounds like someone who may have done an early playtest with no add-ons, right? But let's move on to leveling speed. Leveling speed. This is a conjecture from what I heard/inferred from a meeting about what they were going for, but my understanding is they want to extend the leveling experience and make it slower and even more of a journey. They intend to expand on the leveling experience in the future as a core part of the game. That's pretty good. I think that's something that people have wanted for a very long time. The data mined additions, Epic and Heroic. Now, we've talked about these before in previous videos, so I'm interested to see what he has to say here. I have zero information about that. Well, that's great. But my limited understanding is that they want to go with a buy-to-play expansions model. But very importantly, they want each expansion to be additional content that does not invalidate previous content at all. This part is somewhat of a speculation on my part, so take it with a grain of salt. Professions. I checked with guard NPCs in Stormwind and saw they added jewel crafting and inscription. Checked the inscription trainer and there was a lot of new stuff like contracts, which read similar to quests. Create a contract to dispatch of humanoid enemies in Red Ridge Mountains type of thing. Okay, that's very interesting. I mean, thinking about professions, in my opinion, I do feel like for Classic Plus, Blizzard would go the route of maybe just like redoing the professions that are already in the game. Maybe not, you know, some of the previous leaks we've seen, like they're going to add wood cutting and all this other stuff, carpentry. Kind of cool, but it's very intricate and gets really complex if they're trying to add completely new things. I personally would think that they would just kind of redo some professions they've done in the past from other expansions and maybe revamp the original professions in the game. So this lines up with what I would see in a Classic Plus for sure. UI updates. They didn't have it in the build at the time, but was told they intend to have all the UI features they were working on in Midnight at the time also available as well. In hindsight, I'm assuming they meant the cooldown manager, their damage meter, and stuff like that. So basically saying that they're going to add like the in-game damage meter, the cooldown manager, which is like Omni CC, basically that kind of stuff like they did in retail, add that over to Classic, which I don't see any harm in doing that at all. They're actually, for me, when I played retail previously, when the last expansion came out, Midnight, you know, I thought those things were a great addition, so I can't see them harming anything as long as we could still use add-ons if we want to. New quests. I did notice several new quests in Elwynn and Stormwind, as well as class quests for the Scout, of course. Itemization changes / stats. This I found very surprising. They changed how some of the stats work. The character panel is somewhat redesigned, with stats now more neatly displayed, and they have more additional effects. As far as I could tell, based on the class, so for Scout, for example, agility gives you ranged attack power and crit as you would expect, and it tells you exactly how much per point etc, which is really nice. You don't need to do any math. But also grants X% increased movement speed. It was very small, but still there. Intellect grants more mana and energy recovery rate. Strength was melee attack power and debuff duration, and I can't recall what Spirit gave. I logged in onto a warrior real quick to check the stats there, and I remember that Intellect was set to provide weapon skill by some threshold amount, and Spirit had a chance to gain X rage when attacking. I also noticed some items had fractional stats added, like 0.4% chance to hit, or new ones like chance to gain 30 mana when dealing damage. Very interesting. If they did go that route with itemization changes and stats, I think that's fantastic. I think that's a really good way to go about it. I never even actually thought of that. And I like it if that is real. All in all, as you can see, I don't have a full feature list of content. I only had limited time and no access to the cheat panel in this build, so I could only level a fresh character. I'm sure there's a ton of things I missed. I didn't mention new dungeons or raids, but I know they are adding them because I could see a certain green portal behind metal bars in a new hallway in Stormwind Keep, branching from the library area. See ya at BlizzCon. Well, I'll be honest with you guys, very interesting leak. Again, it is a leak. It could be true. It could be fake. I don't know. Don't take everything you read on the internet, you know, like it's the truth. Like it could be completely fake. This person could have just been bored and wanted to write this up. But again, we read about this stuff because we are so bone dry on new stuff for WoW. We love the game and we just want to play the game. So it's all speculation. But I wanted to share this one with you guys because I read it and I was like, you know, it's not over the top. It does kind of align with Classic Plus. I checked it to see if it was written with AI and was not written with AI. There was a lot of things about this that just seemed right to me. The fact that this wasn't like a full Classic Plus wish list like a lot of the other leaks, like some of the ones I haven't even talked about on the channel. This was more of like, it really did sound like it was written from the perspective of someone who got to play an early build of this and is just basically writing out what they remembered from that build. And that's why I think there was a little bit of credibility to this. But again, could be fake, could be true. I don't personally know. What are your thoughts on it? Drop them down in the comments below. Honestly, if this is the beginning of like this, it seems like he got to play pre-level 15. If this is what it is, that sounds amazing to me. And I am so excited for BlizzCon. We are like 60 days away and it cannot get here soon enough. It needs to be here now. Anyway, like the video if you enjoyed it. Drop your comments down below. I love talking about this stuff with you guys. And, you know, follow me over on Twitch, twitch.tv/hammerdance. We stream Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And subscribe to the channel if you guys love Classic WoW just as much as me. But anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching and listening in. I'll see you all in the next one.